Hello, Kat here. Not going to be the only one in this video, but this is a video on system responsibility and how a couple of us see it. Yeah. Um. So um. Obviously, somewhat complicated topic in some ways, but you know, in my opinion, it's important that system responsibility is upheld. You know, um, you know, it's I understand the argument that is, hey, maybe don't take the responsibility for someone else's actions is, in opposition to the idea that headmates are their own complete people. But it's while that argument is accurate, I don't believe it countermands the point that in many situations with anyone external, it's not completely clear who's taking an action. Like, front markers or proxies on plural kit or, you know, um, VTubing models, anything like that can be faked with relative ease, right? If you have access to them as a system, everyone has access to them and as such can be faked. So, you can't, anyone external can't guarantee who's taking an action. They can trust that those fronting markers in whatever form they take are accurate and believe them, but that's not a guarantee per se, and especially, of course, if a system, rapid switches or something, they may not even be time for a change in those markers, and systems don't always use those markers or make it clear to external people that they're a system, so, you know, um, that holds even less weight in those situations. Um, you know, um, you know, and this means that it's important you take responsibility for each other. You know, it's can be difficult. Not everyone is inside the system is necessarily going to be able to stick to the same rules. Judging on those rules. And some people might be new to the external world and therefore not understand or know the rules, and there's a potential, of course, for headmates with the desire to sabotage things. You know, yeah, however, I think it's important to work together to set up rules that everyone's willing to follow, which might require some compromise, and less restrictive rules than some of you would like, but it's better to have rules that everyone will follow that are relatively loose than it is, a tight set of rules that aren't followed, you know. And the other thing I think that can be done, although I only recommend it in the short term, is you can potentially, depending on, what capabilities are available within the system, it may be possible to block certain people from front for the short term, or ensure they're accompanied while fronting. This isn't ideal because you're removing choice and power from a headmate, and as we can see in the external world, quite often imprisonment, doesn't work well on its own. Certainly, it's not an effective way to rehabilitate people or prevent, them. I mean, in the real world, in the external world, it doesn't stop people from going out and committing more crimes afterwards. A lot of the time. So why that would then work internally is dubious. So, of course, it does work occasionally, and it can help provide you with the time and the space to, figure out something more long term. You know, so, but yeah, generally it's a short term option while a more permanent solution is found. So, rules that can be agreed to, and, good, healthy discussions, healthy bonds, and potentially, if you have access to it, getting those that are sabotaging stuff either external therapy or internal therapy to help work through why they're doing that and reduce the desire to do so. That's my general take on this. Yeah, basically, try to take responsibility as a system for each other's actions as and when you can, and try to work together to set out a series of rules that you will all follow that will help keep you from harming external people significantly and keep you all safe just as importantly. And potentially lock people up in the short term if they are unwilling to follow those rules, and it's crucial that they do, although only in the short term until you can figure out something more long term. Anyway, that's everything from me. I'll let Vamps step in. Hello. Ooh. Okay. Ooh. Just getting situated quickly in the body. Anyway, so, obviously I'm going to try and not repeat a lot of what Katinaza said. Beyond the relatively important point that I agree that system responsibility is important. I would also bring up, however, on the subject of rules, it can help significantly to provide people with benefits for following the rules and being responsible. So this can include options such as, providing people with specific clothing or access to events or, certain, entertainment sources, and, social time and space with people they like or externally, and I think it's important to show that you'll hold to those agreements regardless. So, show that you'll uphold your side of the bargain, right? So, the example here is, yeah, sure, you know what? So Snubby has, been relatively problematic in the past in some ways, and still has a lot of anger at a lot of us. However, the deal has been made that, Slabby has free reign to come out and go for basically to do whatever exercise Slabby feels is accurate, and, basically whenever. It normally takes the form of a run on a Sunday, but, it's not the only option. And in return, Stabby has been, quite good at making sure food is cooked for us, and trying to be, not overly harmful and negative to those external, despite the anger, which is helpful, and that's an example of a deal working reasonably well, yeah. But it's, important, of course, that I find, if we didn't uphold, if I get in the way, for example, of that, there's a reasonable chance things will go wrong in some way, and I recognise that and respect that, and therefore, do everything I can to ensure that the deal is upheld. But anyway, so let's take the example, if a particular headmate decides they want to go to a particular event, right, let's say, concert, right? There's a concert on for a band one of you likes. That's, near enough by, tickets cheap enough you can afford to go. And you do agree to go, right? The decision is made that, yeah, cool, that's something that headmate wants to do. And they're willing to stick to the rules. Otherwise, great, yeah, you agree to go to the concert, you buy tickets, sort out transport, whatever. It's important to try and make it to the concert, regardless of who's fronting, when it's time to leave, you know. And if that is untenable for whatever reason, it's important to properly discuss why you aren't going, you know, with them, and arrange something new, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing, you know, but it's important to, I think, arrange something that can be done to show that, you know, yes, this was what you wanted to do, and no, and yes, it fell through, but you know, we're going to try and make it up to you. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, it's not ideal, and ideally you do try and make it, but you know, that's of course not always possible for various reasons, and you know, it's, you know, it's still important to try and, in you know, at the very least make it up with something else, if you can't make it, you know, and only not make it to them, you know, or not do the thing if there's a very good reason for it, you know, like, yeah, I'm not going to dictate what those good reasons should be for you in your system. That's for you to figure out for yourselves, you know, and it's going to depend a lot on the magnitude of what was agreed as well, of course, you know, like, but, you know, I think it's good to be willing to work together and find compromise and, you know, make deals and, you know, work on ensuring that those are upheld as best you can, you know, from your side, regardless of, right? Because even if they're not necessarily willing to uphold the deal 100% on their side, your willingness to do so, right? Of course, you've got to be careful that you're not just being, you know, exploited, right? You know, if someone continues to take piss and still expect you to uphold your side of the bargain, at some point you have to say no. You need to uphold your side as well, right? You know, like, if someone keeps saying, "Oh yeah, I'll stop following the rules. Just do this for me, do that for me," right? At some point you have to say no. Follow the rules for a little bit. Show you can do this, right? You know, show you can be responsible and sensible, and then we'll think about providing something that you want. You know, right? Of course, you know, if someone wants, you know, more comfortable clothing to front in, it's perfectly reasonable to provide that as early as possible, right? But if someone wants a big expensive trip somewhere, it's more important for them to show that they're willing to uphold their side of the bargain first, you know. But, you know, the exact compromise and balance is something you're going to have to find for yourselves, and probably is going to be dependent on every single headmate as well, separately. Anyway, I think that's everything I had to say. Yeah, cool. No one else has got anything noted down. I'll do a quick check to see if anyone else wants to front, but for this, if not, I guess that'll be the end of the video. Thank you all. This system signing out. Hope to catch you all next week. Please do remember to like, subscribe, comment, especially if you've got any questions you want answered. Be happy to answer them either in the comments or in another video. So catch you all next week.